He's a political prisoner.
We'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the original owners, inhabitants and custodians of this fine land. Pay my respects to their elders. War is a business. And Julian Assange has exposed the criminality of that business model. They've locked him up for 12 years now without charge, no habeas corpus rights, no presumption of innocence, no acknowledgement of the good that he's done for us, no mention of the fact that when he was in his 20s, yes, a young man, he gave his services to the Victorian police and they cracked an online pedophile network. Nobody talks about that because guess what? That paints him as a good guy. And we can't believe that Julian Assange is a good guy. Otherwise, nobody's going to put up with his persecution, are they? Because if journalists are silenced, an authoritarian government moves in and takes over. And unless we wake up and stand as one, we will descend into a tyrannical autocracy. As far as we're concerned, there is only one decision.
No extradition.
Correct, no extradition. There is only one decision.
No extradition. You're into it, Julian Assange?
Nobody free him. He's a whistleblower. He's being honest.
Free Julian.
Free Julian.
Otherwise we'll get a dictatorship. We already are. No, we're not.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. We've had a very good run in Australia. We've had essentially a huge amount of freedom, and human rights have been honoured by the political class by and large in this country, and we take things for granted. We just assume that the government's honest. We assume that we're going to stay free, and we assume we're going to get some semblance of justice. But there are many people all around the world living in dictatorships and in countries that have been bombed, in war zones. And it's very important that we stand up for human rights, because politicians can be very evil and very destructive. And it's very important that the media and the journalists and the people keep them accountable for crimes that they might commit. And it's not just an Australian issue, it's an issue all over the world where the people have to keep the politicians honest. Australian government has done nothing in real terms, in material terms, to get Assange out of prison. One day the people might cause them to be brought to justice. So they've thrown Assange in jail, incommunicado, mainly in solitary confinement, to conceal the crimes that they have committed. On the James Valentine program on the ABC, James Valentine was interviewing the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. And I can't remember the exact words, but words to the effect, James Valentine said to the Prime Minister, "When do you think we'll see Assange back in Australia?" And Albanese said, "Well, you know, we've stood up for Assange, you know, we think it's time to bring an end to the matter, and we've made our views very well known to the Americans and the British, He said, but really, it's a matter between the Americans and the British. In other words, he's not going to do a damn thing about it. He is not going to, in any way, put pressure on the Americans or the British, which he could very easily do by restricting trade propositions or development propositions that they have to make money, by saying that they won't be approved, or without creating any enmity with Britain and America. He could very easily put pressure on them to release Assange. But he won't do it. Now, if you voted for Anthony Albanese and he's not going to stand up for Julian Assange, are you going to vote for him again? Well, you'd be, you know, if you think he's got credibility after that, you probably still believe in the tooth fairy. If you don't want to be living in a dictatorship, do something. If you just stand there and assume everything's going to be all right, before you know it, we'll have a dictatorship in this country. And that is evidenced by what they're actually doing with regard to violating our human rights.
Welcome to the 165th week of Julian Assange Sydney Town Hall gatherings. Propaganda is made up of mainstream narratives, which involve lies, and counter-narratives, which also involve lies. Both are counterproductive to the interests of the general population. Together, a narrative and a counter-narrative bring about polarization. Both create apathy. Neither moves us toward the unity we need to sustain and maintain democracy. The persecuted Julian Assange acted ethically to inform the world about corruption and wrongdoing. Because of his incredible success in revealing the truth about established power, he is the subject of false mainstream narratives and counter-narratives. The mainstream narratives on Julian say that he published without regard for people's lives or for the law itself, and that he needs to face justice. Counter-narratives say Julian is a good guy and that he is part of a team of white hats working to save the world, and that he is safe and not in prison. Both narratives work against the truth. Neither narrative supports our presence at Sydney Town Hall. Neither narrative benefits Julian Assange, nor people generally. It is high time we all moved beyond media narratives and base our thinking on verifiable truth rather than on mainstream media hearsay and opinion. Our unity and our ability to live within a democracy depends on us knowing the truth and not being manipulated by media narratives that serve only the powerful ruling elite. We should never trust what the media say. We need to recognise that media narratives are propaganda paid for by the ruling elite. It is high time we all became awake. It is high time we all became conscious of the truth and become united for peace, democracy, and justice. It's high time we all started working for the freedom of Julian Assange. Julian's freedom is our freedom. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Thank you.
Down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I'll stand my ground. Well, I won't back down. And I know what's right. I've got just one life. In a world that keeps on pushing me around, I'm gonna stand my ground. Back down. Well, hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Well, hey, I'm gonna stand my ground. Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, and I'll stand my ground. No, won't back down. No, I know what's right. I've got just one life. In a world that keeps on dragging me around, I'm gonna stand my ground. No, won't back down. Well, hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Well, hey, I'll stand my ground, and I won't back down. They say everything can be replaced, yet every distance is not near. So I remember every face of every man who put me here. I see my light go shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any way now, I shall be released. Say every man needs protection, yet every man must fall. But I swear I see my reflection reflection, someplace so high above the wall. I see my light go shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any way now, I shall be released. There's a man who's not to blame. All day long he's crying out, shouting out that he's been framed. I see my light go shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any way now, I shall be released. I see my light go shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any way now, I shall be released.
Typically saying you want to make it what I call.
Okay, today's a very special day for us. One of our staunchest members, he actually got me going. I think he really is responsible for what's happening here over the last 165 weeks. Billy Field, and it's his birthday today. He's in denial. So, yes, he reminded me that denial is not, in fact, a river in Egypt. Okay, will we sing, how about a little happy birthday, everybody? Yep. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Billy. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Hip hip!
Hooray!
Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Give us a hug.
I'd just like to say what a privilege it is to be with these you good people who are standing up for not just some semblance of justice for Assange and human rights for Assange, but for all people all over the world that need people to stand up when they're wrongfully treated by governments, politicians.
Release the truth about how warfare is taking place.
Yeah, this is good, eh?
The famous
Cheese,
video is on YouTube if you want to watch it. I suggest that you don't let children watch it.
Where they all want to go? Yeah.
Happy birthday!
The logic is nuclear weapons are around the corner.
The other week I even noted on your piece here, on your video, that it's nonsense about Julian Assange not being a real journalist, because of course he's a real journalist. But what's very interesting is that the USA, via one of these Apache helicopters, actually shot Reuters journalists. So do they not think that Reuters journalists are real journalists as well? I mean, in this instance, does it, you know, I mean, I fail to understand the relevance anymore of what, you know, the US consider real journalists and journalists who are not real. I mean, they clearly want to shoot them all if they don't like the look of them, or don't like the way they've combed their hair, or the colour of their suit coat, or whatever it happens to be. I mean, it's all nonsense. Julian is a real journalist, and you know, the journalists who the Americans and whomever else decided to shoot at and kill, Reuters journalists and any others, they're real journalists too. So, you know, I mean, if they're going to say that Julian is not a real journalist, they're shooting real journalists anyway. So their whole argument is stupid in my mind, in my view. But Julian Assange is a real journalist.
So what's happening, Steve?
Wow. We just keep fighting for Julian.
The agreement that was signed at 8
Keep on hedging.
Trying to keep the dishonest bastards a little bit more honest than they are.
We keep on keeping.
That's before the Hague, the International Criminal Court, which is going to look at talking about, you know, trying the people who committed the war crimes, and also punishing Britain and the US for locking away Julian Assange forever and ever and ever when he's not done anything wrong. You've got Amnesty International there, you've got Don't Extradite Assange, which is Julian's wife Stella who runs that one. Right?
I don't really see that. There really should be a distinction
Between a journalist and us.
on anybody that publishes anything,
Exactly.
reveals any crime that the government has committed.
It's not like a doctor where you have to have a license. And with the word protection, but protection for publishers. That are publishing information, truthful information in the public interest.
As far as I can tell, there's no need for whistleblower legislation. It's just what it should be.
Yeah, exactly.
If they commit crimes, the person who dobs them in, you know, that's a bad word in Australia, dobbing in. The person that reveals, I mean, a serious crime needs to be.
That's what we're supposed to do. If we're aware of a crime, we have to report it.
And if an ordinary person can't reveal it, that's when we need journalists.
Yes.
And they're not doing it.
Exactly.
Little boy, just for fun, riding our bikes in the midday sun. Who says, young man, you are the one? Pack our bags for kingdom come. Kids played at great southern land, living life where time began. Beach elbow shack Kakadu, we saw their plans from Uluru. And if we played like this, and we sing it like that, then maybe the courts will bring him back. Oh, but no, 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 that won't bring him home. So bring him home. As Henry VIII did Anne Boleyn, lock him in a tower in London, and all of the horses and all of the men cannot put their lives together again. And if we played like this, and we sing it like that, then maybe the courts will bring him back. Oh, but no, 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 that won't bring him home. So bring him home. So we gather our hearts, and we gather our thoughts, and we gather our tears, and face down our fears. We gather on the street, year after year. Love will bring him home. Love will bring him home. Chin up, lad, you've gone this far. Don't stop digging, know who you are. Conviction is what made us great. The more we love, the less they hate. So we gather our hearts, and we gather our tears, and we gather our thoughts, and face down our fears, and we gather on the street, year after year. Love will bring him home. Love will bring him The burden is heavy though the future be bright. God give it strength, yeah, God hold you tight. Can you hear the birds sing? Can you hear the breeze ring? And we'll all be together forever and never, never, never suffering Assange.
Julian Assange with not really the truth. Yeah. So if you read that, you'll see what's happening.
She has ways and means
It's dedicated to Stella Assange, the wife of Julian. Absolutely wonderful human being.
So what happened to him? We used to hear about him all the time. You don't hear about him all the time. Get him in death.
He spent locked up?
Yeah, I didn't know he'd been locked up for 12 years. I think the biggest thing that shocked me is that you just don't hear about it anymore.
Yeah, well, that's part of it.
I remember there was a period when Julian Assange was on the news a lot, and I was hearing about it a lot. But now I haven't heard his name, and you know, to be frank, I think there's a lot of things we haven't heard about anymore because there's so much, it's just the same stuff.
We're being distracted by other stuff.
That's right.
Like, don't look at this, look at that.
Yeah, just look at certain things which I'm sure do exist, but probably a little bit exaggerated.
The really important stuff's being hidden.
That's right. That's right.
Anyway, we're gonna stick up for this guy.
Some big news was Christmas beetles have disappeared from Sydney. Where did they go?
Well, that is big news.
That's a big question. What happened to them? Because I remember growing up and Christmas beetles used to be everywhere.
They were part of it.
No, part of Christmas.
But insects in general have disappeared. Once upon a time,
that's
you went for a drive in the country and your radiator got blocked with bugs. And
what's happened?
Where have all the bugs gone?
The Great Escape. Yeah. Well, this is good. This is good. But yeah, that's the only thing I'd like to say. I just think it's a bit. There's a lot of. I think the media have lost more and more people every day, and there's less trust in the media today on the ground. People on the ground. There's less trust in the media today than I think there ever was since the beginning of media.
Correct.
Yeah, because media only started in the last. The concept of the media it's a modern invention.
Yes. Yeah. And it's to defend democracy. It's it's the fourth estate, as they say.
That's right.
It's designed to keep democracy alive.
Yeah.
And that's why we've got to fight for it.
But more and more people that I speak to every day, just normal people, friends, professionals, everyone, just like, I don't watch the news anymore.
No, it's rubbish.
I've stopped listening to it. I'm not learning anything from it. It's just normal people.
Well, you're learning a false narrative. That's what you're learning. You're being mind manipulated.
Yeah, that's right.
And people don't like that. They won't.
Yeah.
The truth always wins.
That's right, mate. That's right.
Thank you for stopping.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Come again anytime.
I will.
We're here every Friday.
All right.
Thanks, Heather.
No worries.
Really beautiful.
We are all Assange.